Have you ever paused in the middle of the day and quietly asked yourself, why am I feeling this tired? Not sick, not unwell, just a little slower, a little heavier, a little less clear. Maybe your knees ache a bit when you stand. Maybe your memory slips, just for a second. Maybe mornings feel harder than they used to, and nights a little too long. You chalk it up to age, to getting older, to how things are now. But what if I told you? It's not always about age. What if your body, your strength, your clarity of mind isn't fading on its own? What if it's reacting to something you do every day without even realizing? A habit, a pattern, a simple choice repeated quietly until it becomes part of you. Like skipping breakfast, or sitting too long after lunch, or staying up late night after night. They feel harmless, ordinary, unimportant, but they add up. They whisper to your bones, your muscles, your heart, until one day you feel like your body is slipping away from you. But maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just been waiting for you to pause, to notice, to start again. Today, we begin there. You see, we don't wake up one morning suddenly weaker, suddenly slower. It happens quietly, through days that look ordinary, through choices that seem harmless. You sip a sweet juice in the morning instead of eating something solid. You watch television for hours after lunch without getting up. You fall asleep past midnight thinking, it's just one more episode, and each time your body adapts. It adjusts. It copes, until coping becomes struggling, and struggling becomes normal. And one day, you find yourself wondering, wasn't I stronger than this? But what if your strength isn't gone? What if it's just waiting, behind a door you didn't know you had closed? If you've ever skipped breakfast because you didn't feel hungry, or thought a little juice was enough to start your day. If you've sat in the same chair for half the day, telling yourself you'd move later. If you've whispered, it's just age, while holding onto a table to stand up. Then maybe, just maybe, you're like Mrs. Helen. And if that's true, you're not alone. You're part of a quiet crowd. A generation that has been taught to endure, not to question. To accept decline as a fact, not a process. But here's something no one told us. Sometimes, decline isn't nature, it's habit. And if habit is the problem, then habit can also be the solution. So stay with me. Because over the next few minutes, you're going to meet someone whose life started to change, not with a miracle, not with medicine, but with a few tiny shifts in the ordinary. If anything here feels familiar, if you've nodded once or even sighed a little, leave a quiet comment with the number 6. That's all. Just 6 to say, I've felt this too. So why are we here? Not to scare you, not to shame you, and definitely not to overwhelm you with rules or routines. We're here for something gentler, something quieter, something that's been missing from so many conversations about aging. We're here to notice, to take a kind, honest look at the habits we carry each day and ask, are they still serving us? Because sometimes we keep doing what we've always done, even if our body has long outgrown it. Maybe it's that morning juice that feels refreshing, but spikes your blood sugar. Maybe it's the hours spent in a chair, resting, while your muscles quietly forget how to move. Maybe it's the late nights that once felt peaceful, but now steal your clarity the next day. These aren't bad choices. They're simply old ones. And today, we begin learning to choose again. Because aging doesn't mean fading. It means adjusting, not surrendering. It means tuning in, not tuning out. And most of all, it means learning how to care for this body, in the season it's in. You deserve mornings that feel steady, steps that feel sure, thoughts that feel clear. And you don't need to chase big solutions to get there. You don't need fancy equipment, or expensive food, or rigid schedules. You just need one small habit, replaced with one better one. repeated gently, consistently, kindly. So together, let's look closer. Let's walk with Mrs. Helen, a gentle, familiar soul whose story might feel a lot like yours. And let's see what shifts. When we begin to listen to the quiet messages our body has been sending us all along. It's early morning. The sky is still soft. Not quite blue, not quite gray. A quiet in between. Inside a modest house at the end of a quiet street, everything is still. The curtains are closed. The radio plays low in the kitchen, an old station with familiar voices. A kettle clicks, not quite boiling. And in the middle of this gentle hush sits Mrs. Helen. She's 72. She wears a soft robe, slippers with worn soles, and a look of quiet routine. In front of her, a small round table. On it, a biscuit, slightly stale, and a bottle of sweet orange juice from the store. It's been her breakfast for years. No eggs, no toast, no water. She says she's not hungry in the morning. She says it's enough. The chair beneath her creaks as she shifts. The news hums in the background, but she's not really listening. She's just sitting, thinking, waiting. Outside, the sun begins to climb, but inside, the windows stay shut. The light struggles to break through the curtains. She used to open them, years ago. Used to sit with tea and watch the neighbors walk their dogs. But now, mornings pass like this. Still, predictable, quiet. There are no emergencies. No pain, no alarms, no reason to worry. And yet, if you watched closely, you'd see the small things. The way her hand reaches for the table before she stands, the slight wince in her shoulders, the pause before each step. Nothing dramatic. Just different than before. She doesn't talk about it. Not to her daughter, not to the doctor, not even to herself. Because to her it's normal, expected, part of getting older. But the body remembers, and the body speaks, not in words but in signs. A slower step, a shorter breath, a longer nap. These aren't failures, they're messages. Messages that whisper. Something needs to change. Let me tell you a little more about Mrs. Helen. She's not fragile. She's not helpless. In fact, she's proud of how much she still does on her own. She folds her own laundry, keeps the bills paid on time, even fixes the little things around the house with tools she's kept for decades. There's a quiet strength in her, the kind built from years of raising children, making do and showing up. But lately, that strength feels different. Not gone, just less dependable. Some mornings, she needs 2 tries to stand up. Some days, she forgets where she put her reading glasses, twice. Sometimes, she gets winded after climbing the same stairs she's climbed for years. She notices it, but she doesn't talk about it, because she's learned to accept, to adjust, to not make a fuss. And then, there's you. Maybe you're her child, or her grandchild, or her neighbor. Or maybe you're just like her. You watch from nearby, or from your own mirror, and you see the small shifts. The way she moves slower in the kitchen. The way she repeats things mid-conversation. The way her laugh ends a little faster than it used to. You don't want to interfere, you don't want to insult, but a quiet voice inside you wonders, is she really okay? Or just really good at hiding what's changing? Then one day, during a regular checkup, Dr. Green, a kind middle-aged physician, looks over her notes and pauses. He doesn't add a prescription. He doesn't recommend a new treatment. Instead, he leans forward and asks gently, "Can I ask, what's your day like, Mrs. Helen? From morning till night, what do you usually do?" She smiles politely. "Nothing exciting," she says. "I just follow my routine." And that's when it starts. The noticing. Because sometimes, the answers aren't in the scans or the tests. They're in the routine, in the habits, in the rhythm of the day. The people in this story, they're not here to be rescued. They're not here to be pitied. They're here because they matter, because their lives still have movement, still have momentum, still have the potential to shift in small, meaningful ways. It begins like any other day. Mrs. Helen wakes up, slips her feet into those familiar slippers, and shuffles toward the kitchen. She doesn't open the window. She doesn't turn on the overhead light. She prefers the soft gloom of early morning. It feels easier on the eyes. At the table, she sits. One biscuit, a plastic bottle of sweet orange juice, no water, no protein, no real fuel. She eats slowly, almost absent-mindedly, and turns on the radio. 3 hours pass. She doesn't move. And when she finally stands to get something from the hallway, her legs hesitate. Her knees feel stiff, like they've forgotten how to respond. She clutches the edge of the table, steadying herself. Her heart beats just a little faster, but she brushes it off. "I'm fine," she says out loud. "It's just age." But that stiffness, that wobble, wasn't there last year, or the year before that. She just hasn't noticed how gradually it crept in. It's a Wednesday. She tells herself she's not hungry, like most mornings, so she skips the food again, just drinks the juice, maybe a few crackers, but nothing real, nothing strong. By late morning, she feels lightheaded. Not dizzy enough to panic, just off. She sits down slowly in her living room chair, lets the TV play. She closes her eyes. Rest is good, she tells herself, but her body is speaking louder now. It's not asking for sleep, it's asking for support. A boiled egg, a cup of warm oats, a glass of water. Small things, but powerful ones, and she hasn't offered them in days. That night, she stays up watching her favorite crime show. She says it helps her wind down, but midnight comes, then past, and she's still wide awake. When she finally lays down, it's 1 a.m. The house is silent. Her thoughts are loud. The next morning, she's groggy, not tired, foggy. She forgets where she put the sugar. She pours juice into her tea instead of milk. And when her daughter calls to check in, she repeats the same story twice. They both laugh. But deep down, she feels a flicker of something else. A quiet question. Am I starting to lose myself? But the truth isn't as dramatic as that. She's not fading. She's just running on the wrong rhythm. Late nights, empty mornings, still days. And no one ever told her how much those little things matter. These moments, they aren't medical emergencies. They aren't crises. They're whispers. The body's way of saying, I need you to look closer. I need a different kind of care now. And maybe, just maybe, Mrs. Helen is starting to listen. It was a Thursday morning. Cool outside, soft light pushing through the blinds. Mrs. Helen stood up from her kitchen chair, same as always. But this time, her legs didn't respond right away. There was a wobble, a sudden, unexpected shift. She reached for the table but missed it by 1/2 inch, and sat back down with a thud. Nothing broke, nothing bled, but her hands were shaking. Her heart was racing. It wasn't pain that startled her. It was realization. A deep, unsettling thought surfaced, one she couldn't wave away this time. This isn't just age. She sat still for a long time, longer than usual. And in that stillness, her mind wandered through her days, the sugary juice, the skipped breakfast, the silent mornings with curtains drawn, the evenings stretching too late, the long stretches of sitting, the weeks, maybe months, without a proper walk. She didn't feel guilt, she felt clarity, and that was the most powerful moment. Because clarity doesn't shout, it whispers. What if this isn't just decline? What if it's my routine? What if I've been slowly stepping out of my own health, one small habit at a time? Not because she was careless, not because she was lazy, but because no one ever taught her how much those little patterns mattered. No one told her that breakfast builds muscle, that water clears the mind, that sunlight resets the body clock, that movement isn't just exercise, it's memory, it's balance, its strength. In that moment, Mrs. Helen didn't feel broken. She felt awake, and with that came something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Not the loud, dramatic kind, the quiet, steady kind, the kind that begins with one honest question. What if I can start again? The next day, something changed. Nothing big, no resolutions, no dramatic vows, just a different start. Mrs. Helen opened the window. She let the morning air in, crisp, alive. She made a real breakfast, a boiled egg, half a slice of toast, a warm cup of tea. She drank a full glass of water before anything else. She didn't rush. She didn't try to be someone new. She just tried differently. She even stepped outside. Only a few minutes. Only to the garden gate. But still, she moved. And by evening, something felt different. Not everything. Not perfectly. But slightly lighter. Her legs didn't ache as much. Her nap didn't stretch too long. She smiled more during her evening call. And when bedtime came, she turned off the lights before 11. It was quiet. It was early. And it felt good. That night, she slept deeper than she had in weeks. But there was still one habit she hadn't thought to question. One thing she did every single day, a routine that felt almost healthy, but that might be quietly draining her strength faster than anything else. It wasn't the juice, or the sitting, or the bedtime. It was something even more familiar, and even easier to overlook. Can you guess what it is? The morning light was softer today. Mrs. Helen sat by the window, a warm cup of tea in hand, steam curling gently into the air. She didn't do anything grand. No marathons, no diets, no dramatic overhauls. Just one quiet change, then another, and another. And it turns out, caring for your body in this season of life isn't about fixing everything. It's about choosing something kind and doing it again tomorrow.